the world seems to be enamored with French food. I, for one, not so much. Furthermore, not so nuts about the worldview that the French introduced into a contemporary society. When Jesus left the earth, what is known as the pre-modern world began. Basically, people believed in God, they believed the Bible, they believed the church, they believed in supernatural, no questions asked. But then, in the 1400s, a fellow named Columbus discovered the world isn't flat. And Copernicus discovered we're not the center of the universe. Uh-oh. And then in the 1500s, a German monk named Martin Luther came along and he said it is Jesus and nobody else who is the head of the church. And suddenly all of the foundations of the pre-modern world collapsed. The Renaissance and the Reformation of the 15th and 16th century pulled the rug out from underneath the pre-modern world, and it ushered in an age where we replaced God with science and man's reason. And it was Rene Descartes in the 17th century who began the Age of Enlightenment, where we pushed God from the center and we left man squarely in his place. The age of humanism had begun. The pre-modern era officially died in 1789 with the storming of the Bastille in Paris. When peasants removed the king from the throne, he claimed to have a divine right to rule the masses. The peasants said no. Now man is the highest authority on earth. And that's why here at Notre Dame, they replaced a statue of Jesus with a statue of reason. The modern era came to a screeching halt in 1989 with the tearing down of the Berlin Wall, when we realized that man at the center of the universe, as represented in Marxism and communism and Nazism, had utterly failed. Humanism could not cure all of our ills. All that was certain was now uncertain. Modernism left us with God is dead and man cannot solve our problems. Modernism was now dead, but she gave birth to an even uglier child. Postmodernism. The 1990s postmodern battle cry was, truth cannot be known because there is no truth. Universal truth is not something that gets applied to all people for all time because we don't know what truth is. And if there is truth, it's determined by the individual. So think of the history of philosophy like an umpire at a baseball game. To the pre-modern, he would say, I call them as they are. The modern would say, I call them as I see them. The postmodern would say, I call them, and that's what they are. To the pre-modern, truth was found in Scripture. To the modern, truth was found in science and reason. To the postmodern, truth can't be found because there is no truth. To the postmodern who doesn't believe in ultimate truth, the single most offensive thing a Christian can say is, I know the truth. And if you think this does not affect you, after 9/11, George Barna discovered only 22% of Americans believe in absolute truth. And so it is. The philosophy of our day is postmodernism. And to whom should we give credit, at least predominantly to this bankrupt worldview? You guessed it, the French. Behind me is the world's most famous art museum, the Louvre, and it is loaded with wonderful, great pieces of old art. But have you noticed how goofy the modern stuff looks these days? I mean, some artist takes a can of paint and slaps it on some canvas, and we're supposed to interpret it and ask, what does the art say to me? Which is very strange, because with the same piece of art, you can have about 1 billion different interpretations. Forget what the artist intended. We're asked to simply respond. And the reason for that new approach to interpreting art is a big fancy word called deconstructionism. French coffee sure is good, but I think too much of it might make you bonkers. Frenchman Jacques Derrida spent a lot of time in French coffee houses and cafes where he came up with a new way to read books. He said we need to deconstruct literature. That's sort of like a wrecking crew tearing down a house piece by piece, trying to discover what the builder did wrong. Hold on, it gets weirder. What that means is when you read literature, you not only read what is written, but you read what is not written. Deconstructionists teach it doesn't matter what the author wrote. What matters is what the literature means to me. The author must die that the reader might live. That's what they said. And if you think that's just highfalutin philosophical talk, it's not. You've actually seen deconstructionism at work. Here's where you've seen it. You go to a Bible study and the teacher asks, what does that verse say to you? That's deconstructionism inside the church. When it comes to reading the Bible, it doesn't matter what it says to me. What matters is, what did the author intend it to say? And that's why we shouldn't ask, what does the verse say to me? We should ask, what does the verse say, and how does that truth apply to me? But thanks to deconstructionism, we have some really bad art and some really bad Bible studies. And what exactly does this deconstructionism, this postmodernism look like today? Do you think that truth is open to interpretation?
The truth is open to interpretation?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What are you studying here, Georgia Tech?
Industrial engineering.
Geeks, so you're kind of a geeky, sort of smart guy with left brain, is that what it is? You're a smart guy, right?
I would guess.
You're good at math.
Yeah, a little bit.
What's 2 plus 2?
4.
I think it's 7. Am I wrong?
Maybe.
I mean, maybe.
I mean...
What are you studying?
Industrial engineering.
What kind of an industrial engineer thinks 2 plus 2 might be 7?
I mean, it could be kind of abstract. I mean, you could... If a different dimension, maybe it's 7.
This dimension?
Then 4.
And so I'd be wrong.
I don't know.
All right, here you go. I think Oprah Winfrey is the great goddess of the universe. Okay, you with me so far? Yeah. And if I say her name 7 times right before I die, I'm going to live for eternity in her high-rise penthouse in Chicago, enjoying a healthy diet with her personal trainer for all of eternity. That's what I believe. Am I wrong?
No.
How do you know?
I mean, that's your perception of reality, so...
Okay. Do you think I'm right?
No.
So you think I'm wrong?
No.
So then you think I'm right?
No.
Then I must be wrong.
No.
Okay, so how... You don't agree with me, though, correct?
No.
Why not? It's dopey.
Well, I'm just saying, your perception of reality is different than my perception of reality, so you can believe whatever you want about this universe, and I can believe what I want. They don't have to be the same.
What's your first name, young man?
Dan.
Dan, nice to meet you. Now, I agree with you when it comes to art. We can interpret that if we want to, unless, of course, the author came along and said, no, I'll tell you exactly what it means, and that's what it means based on the author's intentions, okay? But when it comes to truth, it's not a personal preference. It is either true or it is not true, correct?
Well, in your perception of reality, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you one that's maybe way out there, all right?
Okay.
Is this reality?
Sure. In my perception of it.
Are we even here for sure?
Maybe. Some people say we're just blobs of energy floating around in space.
So I might not even be here. I might actually just be somebody's imagination right now.
Sure.
You too.
Yep.
We just happen to be floating in somebody's imagination, potentially.
Potentially.
Okay, and you're sure about that?
And one perception of reality, sure.
Uh-huh. And so to the French we say, merci. Merci a lot.